White button mushroom. The white button mushroom is the most eaten mushroom on the planet, but almost nobody knows where it actually came from. In the 17th century, King Louis XIV of France developed a taste for a rare wild mushroom, and his royal gardener began growing it at Versailles. Then, in 1814, a Parisian farmer made a discovery that changed everything. He found a cluster of these mushrooms, thriving 10 meters underground in an old stone quarry. He realized the constant temperature down there meant he could grow mushrooms all year round, no matter the season. Within decades, over 300 mushroom farmers had set up shop in the tunnels beneath Paris, including sections of the very same catacombs lined with the bones of millions of Parisians. That's right, the mushroom on your pizza was once farmed in the company of the dead. But here's the twist nobody tells you. This basic mushroom isn't even its own thing. It's secretly the baby version of two other mushrooms on this very list. Portobello mushroom. Here's the reveal. The portobello, the cremini, and the white button mushroom are not three different mushrooms. They are the exact same species, Agaricus bisporus, just harvested at different ages. White button is the youngest. Cremini is the awkward middle stage. Portobello is what happens when you just let it keep growing. For most of the 20th century, these overgrown, dark, open-capped mushrooms were considered ugly and unsellable. Farmers practically threw them away. Then, in the 1980s, someone had a genius idea. Give the same mushroom a fancy Italian-sounding name. Portobello was born. And almost overnight, restaurants and shoppers who wouldn't touch an overgrown mushroom were paying a premium for it. Same fungus, new name, completely different reputation. Marketing turned this mushroom into something exotic, but the next mushroom on the list didn't need marketing. People have quite literally fought over it. Shiitake mushroom. The earliest records of shiitake mushrooms trace back to Song Dynasty China, over 1,000 years ago, where farmers discovered they could grow it by drilling holes into freshly cut oak logs. Centuries later, Buddhist monks carried the technique to Japan, where shiitake became so prized that families would inoculate a log when a child was born, and that log would mature alongside the child, becoming part of his inheritance by the time he reached adulthood. The mushroom was so valuable that people began stealing each other's logs, sparking what historians now refer to as actual shiitake wars. Even today, traditional growers still use the same oak log method, and it can take a year or two before the first mushroom even appears. Shiitake fights happened above ground. The next mushroom on this list fights underground, and it eats meat. Oyster mushroom. This one is not a typo. The oyster mushroom is a carnivore. It's quite possibly the only meat-eating food sitting in the vegan aisle. Along its microscopic threads, it grows tiny lollipop-shaped traps that release a toxic gas the instant a roundworm brushes against them. Within minutes, the worm is paralyzed. Its cells flood with calcium, and it dies, at which point the mushroom grows tendrils directly into the corpse and absorbs its nutrients. Scientists first noticed this strange behavior in the 1980s, but it took until very recently for researchers to actually decode the exact toxin responsible. So the next time you toss oyster mushrooms into a stir-fry, just remember, you're eating a predator. If a quiet, soft-looking mushroom can secretly be a killer, imagine what's hiding inside the next one. Because what you buy in the store isn't even close to what it looks like in nature. Enoki mushroom. Those pale, spindly white bundles sold in grocery stores barely resemble their wild ancestor at all. In the wild, enoki, also called velvet shank, has short, sticky, reddish-brown caps sitting on dark, velvety black stems. To get the long white noodle look sold in stores, farmers pack the mushrooms into bottles and grow them in total darkness with high carbon dioxide levels, forcing them to stretch desperately toward any trace of light while losing all their color in the process. But there's a genuinely dangerous side to this mushroom too. Foragers hunting wild enoki risk confusing it with a mushroom nicknamed the funeral bell, which contains the exact same deadly toxins found in the deathcap mushroom. Enoki's wild look-alike can kill quietly. The next mushroom doesn't have just one dangerous double. It has an entire family of them, and one is loaded with a chemical once used in rocket fuel: morel mushroom. Despite more than 100 years of attempts, morel mushrooms have almost completely resisted commercial farming. They remain almost entirely foraged from the wild, which is exactly why morel hunters guard their secret patches like family heirlooms, sometimes passed down for generations. But morels have a dangerous twin, so-called false morels, whose brain-like, wrinkled caps can fool even experienced foragers. These contain a toxin that breaks down into a chemical compound historically used as rocket fuel, and it can cause organ failure or death. The only truly reliable test is slicing the mushroom clean in half. A true morel is completely hollow inside, top to bottom. If morel's danger hides underground in lookalikes, the next mushroom's danger hides in plain sight after dark, because it actually glows. Chanterelle mushroom. Chanterelles form a years-long, intimate underground partnership with the roots of living trees, which is exactly why, despite endless attempts, nobody has ever managed to successfully farm them. They can only be found, never grown. Foragers identify true chanterelles by their unmistakable apricot-like smell. But the most common toxic look-alike, the jack-o'-lantern mushroom, doesn't just resemble it in color and shape. On a properly dark night, its gills glow with an eerie green bioluminescent light, almost like something out of a horror film, thought to help attract insects that spread its spores. Smell is often the only thing separating dinner from a trip to the hospital. Chanterelles can't be farmed because they need a forest partner to survive. The next mushroom doesn't grow from soil or wood at all, in the way you'd expect. Scientists are studying it because it might be able to help regrow parts of your brain. Lion's mane mushroom. With its cascading white spines, lion's mane looks more like a sea creature than a fungus. But its strangest feature is invisible. It contains rare compounds called hericenones and erinacines, which lab and animal studies suggest can stimulate the production of nerve growth factor, a protein essential for repairing and regrowing nerve cells. Used for centuries in traditional Chinese and Japanese medicine, lion's mane is now the subject of ongoing scientific research into memory and neurodegenerative disease, although large-scale human trials are still limited. In short, this is a mushroom researchers are studying because it might help rebuild your brain. If lion's mane is working quietly on your nervous system, the next mushroom, according to legend, would make you dance with joy the moment you found it. Maitake mushroom. Maitake literally translates to dancing mushroom in Japanese. Legend says that whoever stumbled across one in the forest would dance for sheer joy, because in feudal Japan, maitake was so valuable it was traded for its exact weight in silver. It's also called hen of the woods, thanks to its overlapping, feather-like clusters that resemble a fluffed-up bird. For centuries, it defied every single attempt at cultivation. And it wasn't until 1979 that growers finally cracked the code to grow it reliably. Maitake was once worth its weight in silver. The final mushroom on this list is worth even more, by a staggering margin. And hunters still rely on an ancient, slightly chaotic secret weapon to find it. Black truffle mushroom. Black truffles can sell for hundreds of dollars per pound, and exceptional specimens have fetched tens of thousands at auction. One truffle weighing just over a kilogram sold for $50,000 in 200 months. 8. They grow entirely underground, in a hidden partnership with tree roots, and despite enormous demand, they resist almost every attempt at large-scale farming. So hunters still rely on trained dogs, and, traditionally, pigs, to sniff them out. For decades, Scientists believed pigs were drawn to truffles because they contain a compound nearly identical to a male pig's mating pheromone. But recent research has actually challenged that romantic explanation, suggesting it might really be a completely different sulfur compound catching the animal's nose. Either way, the world's most expensive food is still tracked down by an animal, following a scent it can't fully explain. 10 mushrooms. 1 was farmed among the dead. 1 eats meat. 1 glows in the woods at night. 1 might rebuild your brain. 1 was once worth its weight in silver. And we've barely scratched the surface of what the fungal kingdom is hiding.